With Resident Evil 6, yeah, we really wanted to up the ante and make this a really large-scale game. And as I've said in other places, I really wanted to focus on like that hero's journey and this protagonist moving through the course of his character development during this incident. And then I started thinking, well, can't I do that with more than one character? Can't I have 4 Resident Evil games in one? So from then, we really had to ramp up the production schedule and the staff involved. What we decided is we weren't going to focus on making the campaigns individually because that would have taken too long. We made these units, these different teams that would focus on making stages individually. So each of these units acted almost like their own development company.
今回取り組みの一つに
We had individual units working on individual components of the game. So there was a team working on the Joavo, there was a team working on zombies, there was a team working on the stage where Jake has to flee from the Ustanak. And this very quickly led to sort of a friendly competition between teams where the Joavo guys are like, we're not going to lose the zombie guys, our enemies are going to be more awesome than theirs. And every set period, we would get together and we would have a team-wide review of the game. We would look at, is this fun, is this cool, is this scary, and exchange ideas. And this review process was one of the things that really helped us improve the quality of the title.
So, 今回本当に
The volume this time around for the game was huge. It was one of the major points of development. Actually, all of the enemies in the game are technically new. We haven't reused anything from previous titles. All of the enemies who make an appearance in the game have been designed specifically for Resident Evil 6. And in terms of what the designers do to come up with new enemies, their focus isn't visual, but rather putting the game first. And the idea is to flesh out this enemy and find out how do they fight, how do they engage the player, and create those details. And once those have been worked out and all of this has been established and it's been finely tuned, then we start building it into the game.
For the process of making creature sounds in Resident Evil 6, we would first start with the design that we get from the art director and talk about, for example, what kind of movement we think this creature would make, the overall size, weight, everything that would affect the different sounds that we come up with. And a lot of the creatures in Resident Evil 6, they do have mutations as well. So we think about, well, what kind of sounds would we hear if we saw this creature mutate, or if we saw just a part of their body mutate.
Obviously, the main focus when we set out to do RE6 was to create the next chapter in the survival horror series. And we really wanted to capture this kind of idea of horror and having to flee from your enemies. And so each chapter and each character possess a different type of horror, a different type of horror focus.
Okay, as I said, I'm trying to do this hero's journey, but out with multiple characters. And the reasoning for that was, what if you take this one incident, but then if you have all these characters, they're not all going to react the same way. They all have their own points of view. So if each character has their own story to tell, then that means we can also showcase different types of horror elements in each of those campaigns. Horror doesn't have to be this one monolithic thing. So with Leon, we decided, okay, we're going to try and go to that classic RE1 style horror, with exploration and trying to figure out what's going on type of thing.
With Chris, it's much more of an action focus, but it's in that sense like 5. We wanted to emphasize that kind of horror.
He's going to be attacked by unknown enemies, creatures coming out of nowhere. His men are going to start to be picked off one by one, and as he starts to lose teammates, that you start to raise the tension, you raise the stakes in that campaign, because you started out from this feeling of safety, and now you feel ill at ease at what's going on all around you, and so that's how you bring out the horror in that situation.
And with Jake, it's the fear of being pursued. The Ustanak is chasing him, he has to flee. It's this unstoppable force that he has to run from because he can't face it.
So if the other 3 campaigns raise a lot of questions about the RE6 story, then Ada's campaign is the answer to those questions. What you have with Leon, Chris, and Jake's campaigns, you each have their individual stories, as I've said, and their own starts, middles, and endings. But when you get to the end of all their campaigns, there's some things you may not understand completely, or you may wonder, oh, well, why did that happen? I still don't get that. Well, that's where Ada's campaign comes in. Her campaign is the one that ties all the loose threads together. So by playing the 3 campaigns and then Ada, then you're going to get the whole story for Resident Evil 6. So the fact that you get these different types of horror tastes, I think, is something that's really unique about Resident Evil 6, and I think that's what is going to really help bring it home for the fans, that they can experience all these different versions of the game.